Hey guys, it should be Tuesday, September 4th. I'm going to try something different and I'm going to have my camera on because we're going to be talking about typing techniques, and I think it might be easier if I show you some of the things. Yesterday you should have done these two things, your pre-test and your computer part notes part 1, and today we're moving on to this. You should have done this. It has a Google Doc and a picture, and what you do is you open up the Google Doc and you fill out your vocabulary based on what you see in the picture. When you are done, you will submit it to Google Classroom. And so this is what you move on to right after Computer Vocab Part 1. You'll see Computer Parts and Technique Notes Part 2. This is a continuation from yesterday. And so you will open up your note guide just like normal, and you'll follow along with the PowerPoint. Okay, so you should have your note guide pulled up, and one of the first things we're going to talk about is typing technique, okay? And so there is a specific way that you need to have your body and have your equipment when you type in order to be efficient, and that's kind of what we're talking about. So the first thing is you're going to want your keyboard to the edge of the desk, okay? And I'm going to go on and hit the next bullet because they kind of go together. The reason you want your keyboard at the edge of the desk is because you don't actually want your wrist to touch your desk or the keyboard. They don't need to rest on anything. You actually want your wrists up, and there's a reason for that. They would strain your wrists a lot if you have them bent back, resting, and so when you have your keyboard at the edge of the desk, it kind of inhibits you from being able to rest your wrists. The other thing is you want both feet flat on the floor for balance and comfort, and that goes along with this next one. Because when your feet are flat on the floor, it allows you to sit up straight. And it's important to, sit straight, shoulders back, because the more hunched you are, the more that you're going to put strain on your back. And if you're sitting for a long period of time, eventually sitting like this is going to feel really bad. So you want to open up and you want your shoulders back. Okay, and so if you're short and you can't touch the floor, one of the things that you can do is you could place like a box, or you could place a stack of books, and then that way your feet are flat. You want to keep your fingers curved, and so what I mean by that is you don't want them stretched out, you don't want them up or back, you kind of want them curved over your keys. And it says over the homeroom keys, and we'll talk about what those are here in just a minute. And your arms and shoulders should be relaxed. So again, if you're up and you're tight like this, it won't be comfortable if you're typing, so you need to be kind of relaxed. And then hand on home row. And so that's with your left hand, you do A, S, D, F. That would be your pinkies on A, ring fingers on S, middles on D, pointer on F. Same thing for the right. So now your pointer's on J, your middle's on K, ring fingers on L, and your pinkies on the semicolon. And so the reason why we do that and your fingers are curved over them is because what you want to do is you want to move your fingers. So if I reach for the T, I need to come back to the F. And that's because you just kind of keep your fingers anchored. That way you're not all over the place and you don't lose what key you're trying to reach. And then you want your eyes on your monitor. So you don't actually want to be staring down. Again, that puts strain back here, and that's going to be uncomfortable. So your eyes actually need to be up and not on your keyboard. So that's why it's important for us to talk about this, because most times if you're looking at the keyboard, you type way slower than you would if you could just watch what you're typing, right? Because if I type looking down and then I look up and I have a million mistakes, then it's going to take me longer than if I had caught them while I was typing them, because I can see what I'm looking at. Okay, so you want quick, snappy strokes. So if it takes you too long to get to a button, like, you want to be kind of fast with it, because let's say you're in college and your professor says to write a 20-page paper. Well, if you don't type very fast, that's going to take you till you graduate to finish. Keep your fingers on the anchor keys. Again, this was kind of talking about F and J are your anchor keys, and you want to always come back to the finger that you started with on the home row. And you're going to use your right pinky to reach for enter. So it kind of jumps over from the semicolon. Oops, I went too far. I actually hit it. Your pinky helps you hit shift. And then it says, enter. And you're going to use the appropriate pinky for each shift key. So there's a shift key on the right, so you'd use your right pinky if you're reaching to capitalize the H. you've got a shift key on your left that you'd reach to do the G if you're trying to capitalize a G. So, kind of what we're talking about with typing techniques, these are all the things that can happen if you have bad posture, if your shoulders aren't back, if your back's not straight, if your feet aren't flat. So fatigue is one of the side effects, and fatigue is just a big word to say your body gets tired, and so it's going to wear you out if you sit at a computer all day and you don't type the right way. You could have stiff or aching shoulders and back and neck. That's what I was talking about. If you're hunched and your head's down, this is all going to become really tight. And we sit at computers for 50 minutes in here, and you'll even notice even in 50 minutes that things can hurt if you're not sitting the way that you should. You could have numbness or pain in wrists, elbows, or fingers, which could lead to injuries. And when we talk about injuries, we're saying repetitive stress. So these injuries would occur over if you type this way for the rest of your life. You'll eventually put strain on your body. Now, if you do something wrong for 5 minutes, you're probably okay. But we're saying repetitive. You do the wrong thing every day, you're going to lead to issues. That could be carpal tunnel syndrome or trigger finger. And so ergonomics, this is just a fancy word for we're going to study how a person's work environment and tools affect that person. And so there's someone out there who studies how can I help people who sit at computers all day feel more comfortable in their environment. And that's kind of what this is. So ergonomics design workspaces and tools that can help you feel more comfortable and safe in your work environment. And so these are some of the examples. Like that's a keyboard that would help you kind of be more relaxed. That's a chair that would help you sit up straight. And this ball chair kind of does the same thing. A ball chair really makes you sit up straight and think about how you're sitting. All right, and when you're typing, you're going to remember to take frequent breaks because you don't need to look at a screen for forever. You want to shake out your hands. You've been using them. It's kind of like after you write for a really long time and you want to shake out your wrists. It's kind of the same thing with typing. And maybe even stand and stretch. Like if we were sitting here for 3 hours, we would definitely need to stand up and stretch it out and take a break. Use keyboard shortcuts whenever possible to avoid constant use of the mouse. You might not know what Control N is or Control S, but Control C is to copy. So that's what a shortcut is. And so you want to use those if you can. Have a good attitude and patience. It'll be a lot better if you're kind of happy about it. And then practice, practice, practice. If you practice typing the right way, you will get better at it. And we will practice in here together how to properly type. And I'll make sure that you're sitting the way that you're supposed to do because it's important. There is a really good chance that you have a job one day that requires you to type, and it's important to know how to do it and how to do it well. So you're going to see on your note guide that you have 2 questions. One of them says something like, look at the picture, look back at your notes and reflect, and what is this man doing well? And I want you to fill that out. And then the next question is, what are the home row keys? And so once you get those done, you can submit this back to Google Classroom, okay?